No, there is no way they win this one. My friends, I love America, but this is difficult to believe. Take a look at the title. The United States versus the world. Who would win? Real talk, I know how strong and how incredible the US military is, but to me it's difficult to believe that you guys can defeat the entire world. Well, I guess we shall see. But before I go into that, let me ask you for one thing. If you can leave a like, thank you so much. Is the best way to show support. Now, if you can subscribe, well, in that case, forget about it. You make my day. Have that in consideration. Link for the original video in my description, and let's see who wins.
It's the United States versus the entire world.
That's
and
crazy.
This is who would actually win in 2026.
You know what? I love the fact that the video is up to date because a lot of countries are increasing the military budget like crazy, specifically in Europe. But you know what? You guys have to be proud because the United States is the only country that can make a title like this. Imagine if we put Spain versus the world. LMFAO. No, sorry. Makes no sense. China versus the world. No, still no. You know what I mean? The US is the only country. That's it.
In any modern war, you don't win by running straight at the enemy. You win by controlling the sky. And this is where the United States plays its best card. The war wouldn't start with soldiers marching across borders. It would start with a massive air raid that covers the whole globe.
Okay.
The US Air Force has spent years perfecting the art of the first day of war. They don't just fight the enemy. They shatter its ability to fight back before the war.
Okay, to be fair, my friends, I'm trying to think about the best jets in the world. The first one that comes to mind is the F-22 Raptor. America owns that one. The F-35. America also. Let's continue with the video.
Or even begins. In 2026, the US is bringing some serious heat. With over 13,000 aircraft ready to go.
13,000?
The rest of the world comes equipped with over 39,000. That is
Okay, big difference. But the thing is, technology on the US is quite more scary.
3 enemy aircraft for every 1 American. Most of the rest of the world is flying aging aircraft, planes that belong in
Come on, what is this cartoon? This is World War I type of aircraft. We have better than this in Europe.
museums, not in a modern-day war, especially when they're coming up against 5th-generation fighters, including the 400 F-35 Lightning IIs and nearly 200 F-22 Raptors. They are snipers in the sky, spotting enemy aircraft from miles away, firing and turning for home before the enemy even sees a dot on the radar. But stealth alone isn't the real advantage. The real edge is integration. US forces are able to fight on a single shared network. Aircraft, ships, drones, tanks, and infantry all exchange data in real time. A sensor in the air can cue a strike from the sea. A drone can pass a target directly to artillery hundreds of miles away. This means the United States doesn't fight as separate branches. It fights as one complete system. And that is something most of the world can't do. Coalition forces rely on incompatible radio, software, and command structures. In peacetime, that's manageable, but in combat, it's a deadly problem. The F-35 is the best example of this. It isn't just a fighter, it is a flying sensor and electronic warfare platform. It can detect threats, jam enemy radars, and pass targeting data to ships, missiles, and other aircraft. The F-35 doesn't even have to fire a shot. The rest of the military can do it. But the
Damn, my friends, the F-35 is really amazing, right? I know the F-22 Raptor is probably a bit more powerful. They are a bit different from what I understand, but the F-35 is insane. And my friends, it's true that America is actually developing soon the F-47. The thing that scares me is, imagine if this becomes real and is America against the world. Of course, never will happen. But just in a crazy scenario, I think there is a good chance America already have the F-47, because you guys hold a lot of secrets.
F-35's real value is what it does.
What I mean is, if you guys are sharing this one, to me, makes me believe that you are working on the 69 F. Okay, 69 was a random number, I swear. The 61, F-61.
To fire a shot. The rest of the military can do it. But the F-35's real value is what it does for everything around it. Friendly units become more lethal. simply by being connected to it.
Crazy.
That kind of force multiplication is hard to counter, especially for militaries that still fight as separate parts instead of a unified whole. Running defense for the rest of the world is mainly on Russia and China. Russia has about 4,000 aircraft, and China has around 3,200. Sure, they have their own
China, see, Russia, Ukraine destroyed half of that almost already, and China is making them on Wish or AliExpress. Oh no, we are looking bad here.
versions of stealth fighters like the Su-57 and the J-20, but there is not enough of them to make a difference. Plus,
No.
their engines break down a lot more often. It's a classic case of quality beating quantity. But the world
Sorry, what? My friends, pay attention to what this description says.
break down a lot more often. It's a
Smells like someone is cooked. Not me, I'm Team America, so.
classic case of quality beating quantity. But the world has a different plan. They throw thousands of older fighters at the US all at once. Their plan isn't to be better, their plan is to be everywhere. They also field the deadliest air defense systems on Earth. Russia's S-400 and China's HQ-9 create massive no-fly bubbles over Europe and Asia, systems designed specifically to hunt American aircraft. So how would the first week of the war look? The US launches a wave of B-2 Spirit
I forgot about the B2. Damn. Sorry, the B2. Very famous recently because of Iran.
So how would the first week of the war look? The US launches a wave of B-2 Spirits and new B-21 Raiders. These bombers fly straight into the middle of enemy territory, undetected to enemy radar. The US targets enemy command centers, radar stations, and runways. At the same time, thousands of US drones flood the skies. They act as bait, forcing enemy radar systems to light
How the hell are you supposed to fight the B2? It's like John Cena. You cannot see that thing. Look, the B2, my friends, it's here. Oh, you guys are not seeing? Me neither. But he's bombing us. Oh, man.
Thousands of US drones flood the skies. They act as bait, forcing enemy radar systems to light up. And the moment they do, American missiles take them out. The world fights back hard, though. The skies over Europe and the Pacific turn into a chaotic mess. Despite having better training, the American pilots are outnumbered. For every enemy plane they shoot down, 2 more take its place. In the first few weeks, the US manages to destroy roughly 20 to 30% of the world's air forces. A devastating blow, but it's not without losses. The S-400 systems managed to track and hit American jets, costing the US between 200 and 300 aircraft. By the end of the first phase, the United States controls the skies, but only in specific theaters. The ocean
Wait, my friends. I'm smelling a comeback. Not from Europe, from the rest of the world, but...
and the Americas. Deep over Russia and China, airspace remains contested. And as U.S. air dominance settles in, the fight shifts to below the surface. The U.S. Navy is not just a navy, it is a floating fortress that can move anywhere in the world. The fleet includes 11 supercarriers, massive ships like the Gerald R. Ford and the Nimitz class. One single U.S. carrier group has more air power than most countries' entire air forces, and the U.S. has 11 of them. The rest of the world has about 10 to 12 combined, depending on how you count light and helicopter carriers. Most of them are smaller, older, or rely on ski jump ramps and
That's crazy. The aircraft carriers are so overpowered, it's absurd. Because America can move by like a fortress, like the guy said, it's like a city in the ocean.
instead of the powerful catapult systems used by the United States. China has 3 carriers, India has 2, and the rest, the UK, Italy, France, and Japan, are scattered across the globe. In a direct confrontation, they simply cannot compete. And the world knows this. They are not going to sail out to the middle of the Pacific and fight the US Navy fairly. China and Russia focuses on keeping the US away from their coasts. They fill the water near their shores with mines, submarines, and thousands of anti-ship missiles. The biggest threat to the US Navy isn't another ship, it is a missile. China fields hypersonic missiles often called carrier killers. They travel so fast that defeating them is extremely difficult. A single successful hit on an aircraft carrier would be catastrophic, putting thousands of sailors at risk. The US Navy moves to blockade the world, positioning destroyers at ocean's choke points. Global trade grinds to a halt. No oil for China, no food for Europe. The strategy is
I'm fat either way, so...
simple. Starve the world until it breaks. This advantage becomes decisive over time. Modern wars aren't won by who strikes the hardest on day one. They become wars of attrition, contests of who can keep moving, feeding, and fueling forces after months of fighting. This is where the US military is strong. American forces can move supplies across the globe at scale. They operate hundreds of aerial refueling aircraft that allow planes to stay airborne for longer. Once shipping lanes collapse and fuel shipments stop, operations slow down, vehicles sit idle, aircraft stay grounded. Numbers stop mattering when armies can't move. US submarines lurk deep underwater patiently waiting. The Virginia-class attack subs are silent hunters, quieter and more advanced than anything the rest of the world has. They slip into enemy waters and launch attacks on enemy ships. Within the first month, the US Navy sinks roughly 40% of the world's surface fleet. The rest retreat to port, trapped, outmatched, and unwilling to sail. In the South China Sea, a US carrier group gets...
Okay, this is looking really bad, my friends. and looking really good for you, but it's not looking really good for us here. Okay, but there is, we are at the middle of the video. Maybe there will be a crazy comeback. Maybe China have some type of drones or something. Let's see it.
Ambushed. A swarm of Chinese drones and submarines overwhelms the defenses. Torpedoes strike the ships. Missiles rain down. 2 or 3 US supercarriers sink. It's a devastating blow to American morale. Despite those losses, the US Navy holds the line. The blockade works. The world's economy starts to crash. Industrial capacity matters just as much as manpower. While much of the world can produce equipment quickly, advanced military systems are far harder to replace. Stealth aircraft, precision weapons, and modern sensors require specialized factories, materials, and skilled labor. The United States has deep reserves of both resources and industrial infrastructure inside North America. Other nations depend on imported oil, metals, and components. Once maritime trade collapses, factories slow down or shut entirely. Over time, one side keeps replacing losses, the other can't. The US rules the deep ocean, but coastal waters remain a death trap, filled with mines. Casualties are high. The US loses 20 to 30 big ships. The world loses over 150.
Okay, but we have a lot to lose. So, okay. This may look bad at first glance, but it's good.
But the US effectively turns the rest of the world into an island, cutting them off from each other. With their navies rusting at the bottom of the ocean, the world has only one option left. After months of bombing and blockades, the world decides they have to invade. They need to take the fight to America, but it is a logistical nightmare. The United States is huge: deserts, mountains, swamps, and forests. It has more than 348 million people, many of them armed. And while this scenario focuses
there is more guns than people, right, my friends? Oh, man.
On the military, the presence of an armed population makes any invasion difficult.
Very
the world's
difficult.
army is massive. More than 25 million active soldiers combined. China has 2 million alone. The US has about 1.3 million active troops. In a straight-up numbers game, the US gets swamped. However,
1.3 million plus 300 million people armed. So this is the biggest military in the world.
soldiers are equipped with better gear, night vision goggles, advanced body armor, and networked radios that link every unit on the battlefield. They fight more effectively at night than their enemies do in the day. And on ground, the M1 Abrams dominates. Its active protection systems can intercept incoming rockets before they ever hit the tank. Numbers alone don't decide ground wars. Training and initiative matter just as much. Most US troops have years of preparation and experience operating complicated hardware.
Don't fight at night. They are like vampires during the day.
Trained to adapt when things go wrong. Most opposing forces rely on short-term conscription, with soldiers sometimes receiving only weeks of training before combat. Command structures are rigid, so when officers are killed or communications fail, units often collapse. US forces operate differently. If a leader goes down, the next person takes over. In chaotic battles, that keeps formations fighting while less adaptable forces freeze. The world attempts to invade on two fronts, through Mexico in the south and Canada in the north.
Okay, I feel like Canada may be the one that wins this war. All the jokes, 51 state, now you guys have to deal with Canada. Let's see what Canada can do.
Massive armies land on US beaches, but the US doesn't try to stop them at the shoreline. That fight favors the attacker. Instead, the enemy is allowed to push inland, their supply lines stretched thin. Then the counterattacks begin. US artillery rains precision rockets on the enemy fuel trucks and ammo dumps. Without gas, the enemy tanks stop moving. Without ammunition, enemy soldiers can't fight. The US utilizes its speed, hitting weak points with fast-moving units, then disappearing before the enemy can respond. But sheer numbers begin to tell. World forces rack up massive losses, pushing forward in waves, relying on bodies where logistics fail. The battle for the US homeland turns cities to ruins. The fighting happens street by street. US drones hover over neighborhoods, sniping enemy combatants. Eventually, the sheer weight of the world's armies begins to push the US back. Alaska may be overrun. Forces may push into Texas. But taking ground is one thing, holding it is another. American supply lines are short, fought on home territory. The world's supply lines stretch across oceans, and the US Navy is actively sinking its ships. Food and fuel begin to run out. The advance stalls. Morale follows survivability. US forces invests heavily in battlefield medicine, aiming to move wounded soldiers to advanced care within the golden hour. Troops know that they have
Okay, but they don't have free healthcare, so, maybe the soldiers have. And then we are at war. Never mind, my friends, again.
aiming to move wounded soldiers to advanced care within the golden hour. Troops know that they have a chance of survival if injured during battle. Other armies can't offer that assurance. Medical evacuation
Jesus, Uncle Sammy's mad.
is slower, supplies are limited, and wounded soldiers are often left behind. Over time, this erodes morale. Units surrender not because they're destroyed, but because hope disappears. The world has the numbers to take over land, but they cannot break the US military completely. The US Army inflicts roughly 5 million casualties. American losses climb to around 500,000. It's a brutal meat grinder, but the homeland remains largely secure, protected by geography and the advantage of fighting at home. And it becomes
I'm never trusting Canadians again in my life. Look at this. What? You guys make the border, you are the best hope. Nothing.
a bloody stalemate. And for the side that's losing, desperation sets in. If the US believes it is truly losing, if enemy armor is rolling toward Washington, D.C., the rules change. The United States maintains what's known as the nuclear triad, the ability to launch nuclear weapons from land, sea, and air. Hundreds of missiles sit in hardened silos across the Midwest. They are old systems but reliable. 14 ballistic missile submarines patrol the oceans. Each carries enough firepower to erase an entire nation. Then there are the nuclear-capable bombers standing ready, able to strike from the air. Of course, the world has nukes too. Russia has the most, over 5,400 warheads in military stockpiles. China is building faster, reaching about 600. But beyond those two, the numbers fall off. France, the UK, India, Pakistan, Israel, and North Korea each possesses far smaller arsenals. But the real problem isn't weapons, it's coordination. Nuclear war depends on timing, communication, and command.
They have nuclear stuff below the White House.
And all of that depends on visibility. Satellites guide missiles, drones, logistics, and communications. In 2026, space is a battlefield. Cyber attacks can disrupt civilian life everywhere, but militaries are the real target. The US operates on hardened, redundant networks designed to keep functioning even under attack. Forces that lose situational awareness don't just fight worse, they fight blind, and blind armies bleed fast. That matters because hesitation is dangerous. Someone has to fire first. And if those launches aren't synchronized, US missile defenses come
He's a bit more fat than he is here. The Kim Jong-un.
into play. Those systems can intercept a limited number of warheads in space. They might stall a small attack, but they can't stop a full-scale Russian strike. The United States fights as a single political and military entity. The rest of the world fights as a coalition. Coalitions look powerful on paper, but they fracture under sustained pressure. Different nations have different priorities and threat levels. That affects trust and coordination. Some partners hesitate while others pull back entirely. The US doesn't face that problem. It adapts and keeps fighting as one. That's why attempts to limit the conflict don't work. Let's say the world tries to use a small tactical nuke to destroy a US Army base. The US response would be instant and huge. US submarines launch their missiles, and within minutes, the capitals of every major enemy nation are targeted. But Russia has a dead hand system that would automatically launch their missiles at the US. China would fire too. The result is mutually assured destruction.
Honestly, China is not doing anything here, my friends. Russia is carrying this.
There is no winner. The United States may survive slightly longer, mainly because its submarines are the hardest part of the nuclear force to eliminate, guaranteeing retaliation even if the homeland is destroyed. But at this stage, victory no longer matters. Once full-scale nuclear exchange begins, everyone loses. The planet enters nuclear winter and civilization does not survive. So who wins doesn't depend on firepower, it depends on whether the war stays conventional. If nuclear weapons remain in their silos and the war relies on conventional weapons, guns, planes, and ships, the United States wins. But it's...
What? Oh my God. I was expecting a tie at least.
It's a Pyrrhic victory. The cost is so extreme that it barely resembles winning at all. In the air, the US wins because technology beats numbers. At sea, it wins because carriers and submarines dominate global trade. On the ground, the war stalls. Numbers push back, but logistics break the advance. And in a nuclear war, nobody wins. The United States has built a military designed to fight 2 major wars at once, but fighting the entire world would push it past the limit. The US could defend its homeland and cripple the global economy with its navy. It could devastate enemy infrastructure from the air, but it could not conquer the world. There simply aren't enough troops to occupy Europe and Asia. And that's why, in a global war, the United States survives, while the rest of the world breaks apart. But if the worst happens, America has options. Check out US World War III.
Okay, US. Oh man. Is everything for today, my friends. No, but for real, it's crazy how strong the US military is. And jokes aside, I was being a bit, of course, I was trying to make this competitive, but I kind of had this idea that maybe everyone loses, of course, but America can defend itself very well. That said, my friends, thank you so much for watching. Leave me the number 1 right now in the comment section if you end up watching until the end. That way I know. And yeah, see you guys soon. Bye, my friends.